Hey everyone, this is Kelly and I am back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today I am using an oldie but a goodie. This is the Country Wreath stamp set and I'm going to create a fall rustic wreath. And I love this stamp set. There's lots of different pieces as you can see there. There are florals, so you could use this in the summertime. There are fall pieces, leaves and pine cones I'm going to use today. And then there are also some pine boughs and berries and things like that that you could use in winter or for Christmas. So I've loaded this into my mini Misty. That is some watercolor paper. I started out this project thinking that I was going to do kind of some faux watercolor on this. It kind of changed directions midstream. But I have inked that up like I said, and I'm going to add some Simon Says Stamp antique gold embossing powder. I love this embossing powder for fall. It is kind of an orangey gold, kind of a brassy color, so it's perfect for fall projects. I'm going to heat that with my heat tool and make sure it is nice and smooth. And then while I have all my embossing tools and things out, I'm going to go ahead and emboss the greeting as well as add a little shimmer by adding some berries on there as well. So I'm using the 2x3 inch stamp that says Hugs, and I'm going to treat this exactly the same as I did the wreath. I'm going to use a little embossing powder tool there, ink that up with that Nuvo clear mark ink pad, stamp that down, and then again add the antique gold embossing powder. Now after I pour on embossing powder, I usually kind of shake it off onto a scratch sheet of paper. In this case, it's a cheapo, like little note card base. And then I like to hold it away from my desk and kind of flick off any excess powder that may be on there. Again, I treated that with my heat tool, not my anti-static powder tool, I'm sorry. And I am stamping on those berries. Now it's hard to see. I'm even having to get like way over the top of that to make sure I'm putting these little berries just in the right spot. But those are just going to add just a little bit of that gold shimmer to the parts of the wreath. I poured that gold embossing powder over there once again and made a total mess, as always. I don't know if you guys are as messy a crafter as I am, but thank goodness I didn't get that into my embossing ink pad, because I don't know if you've ever done that, but that's a hellacious mess. It just gets everywhere and it sticks into your embossing pad, and you pretty much just have to use that as your junky embossing pad after that. It makes a huge mess. Anyway, so I have heat set all those little berries, and now I'm going to get started with the stamping. I've taken like an oak leaf, I think that's what those are, maple leaf maybe. Excuse me, and I'm using the Hero Arts Ombre Autumn ink pad. Now, I was afraid this wasn't going to work because you know you do that little cha-cha-cha back and forth to pick up all the color. And I was afraid that with this small of a stamp it wasn't going to work and you weren't going to get the variation, but it really worked. They turned out really pretty. And then I am taking peeled paint distress ink, and I'm going to stamp some green sprigs and sprays going around the wreath. Now, I like to keep my wreath and everything moving kind of the same direction and pointing the same direction. Now, I do like to put some, kind of outside of the wreath and then some kind of going inside. But I keep everything, in this case, they're all moving counterclockwise. So I don't know if that's just my crazy mind works that way or if it's more visually appealing to kind of go that way, but I think it's easier just to keep everything moving in the same direction. So I am taking some spiced marmalade and I've inked up one of those little florals from the stamp set. Now, this is where I kind of get into the watercolor look. I wanted those little florals kind of colored in. So I'm just taking some of the water and a little bit of that pigment that was left on the acrylic block to just kind of fill those in. And I missed a spot up there, so I'm going to fill that in right quick. I did need to heat set it because I got it all wet with the water. So I have taken some Fossilized Amber, and I love this little sprig. It almost kind of looks like the top of wheat, and I love that Fossilized Amber color for fall. So I'm going to turn those every which way and go around my wreath. The next thing I'm going to add is a little sprig of berries, and this color is Barn Door. I love this color for a little pop too to go with the fall colors, and I'm going to pull in some Nuvo Drops in a little bit, and there's a color that goes perfectly with that Barn Door red. And now I'm going to pull in a little bit of Forest Moss. This is a really rich deep green, and just adding those sprigs right on top there. Now, everything that I had stamped on top of that embossing powder that has been heat set is going to wipe away. So it's not going to make a huge mess. You're going to see that beautiful gold. And so all of those little sprigs are just going to kind of peek out from the sides and kind of look like they're tucked in behind that gold embossing powder. I do add a few little pine cones here and there, and that color is Rusty Hinge. Love those little pine cones. There's two sizes of pine cones. This is the larger of the two. I love how that looks. It's looking very fallish. And now I'm taking just a little rag that's kind of a microfiber cloth and going very gently right over the top of all that heat set embossing powder. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of a halo of color just around the wreath area. Now I have two shades out there. I have Mustard Seed and Scattered Straw, and I end up going with the Mustard Seed. I kind of dip it in the wrong one there for a second, have to kind of blend it off. But as I'm doing this, as you can see over there, I've really pounced it off onto that scratch sheet of paper because I just want just barely a halo of color around that. So I very light-handedly just kind of buffed on that color. Again, I'm taking a clean paper towel and cleaning off any ink that may have gotten on that embossing powder. Okay, this is where I'm going to start with these Nuvo Drops. And this is the first time I've used Nuvo Drops on a project. They kind of scare me to death because you've done all this stamping and inking and embossing and all this, and then you're putting these drops, which are beautiful. They just scare me to death. And some designers can just drop those on super quick and they all look gorgeous and they're all the right shape. Most of the time mine end up looking like little chocolate chips. I don't know what I'm doing to the top of it. This project kind of worked out good. I was kind of proud of myself. But I used 3 colors of Nuvo Drops. The colors are Bottle Green. That's the color I'm using there. And that beautiful red is called Autumn Red. And then I'm going to use Copper Penny. And I love Copper Penny. I don't have much of it left because when I first got it, I was one of those people, I know you've seen these people online, that tried to squeeze it out really hard and it exploded all over my craft room. When I clean my craft room, I still find drops of Copper Penny everywhere, on the walls, all over my craft table. And to pull in this color, I just use teeny tiny little drops, and I'm getting way down, my eyes way down, almost on top of my desk, and I'm barely kissing that little drop there that's coming out of the end, barely putting that to my paper, and that gives you those little splattered drops, as you can see there. And I love the way that turned out. Now, the hard part for me of this project was setting this all aside and letting those Nuvo Drops set up really well. So I set this aside for several hours while I was cleaning up around the house and taking care of the kiddos. And then I trimmed this down, and I am going to pop that on to a matching card base. Now, folded up, this card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I have folded that down and used my bone folder to crease it nice and good, and then use some ATG to add that to the front of that card base. For the inside, I am taking this simple sentiments set, and I am going to stamp the thanks and the little heart that comes in that stamp set way down on the bottom there, just to give it just a little shimmer and just a little something to the inside of this card. I set that up in my Misty. This is the full size, so I could put that card all the way down in there without crunching it up. And I love to use my Teflon bone folder to get everything nice and straight. You can see there that I kind of straighten it out and then close the door, not all the way, but most of the way, so I can make sure it's lined up. When I get it lined up, I drop the lid and pick those stamps up. Use a little bit of the powder tool. I'm going to stamp that in that same Nuvo Clear Mark ink, and then I am going to add that same beautiful antique gold embossing powder. And then I'll have just a beautiful, just little something there to the inside of the card. I'm going to shake all that off, make sure I put the lid on because I've been known to spill that too all across the disc, and heat set that until it is nice and beautiful and smooth. And that is it. The Rustic Fall Wreath using the Country Wreath stamp set. All these supplies are from Honeybee Stamps, and they're all listed in the description box. I'll have all the ink colors and everything else. As always, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.